This is the Grand Seiko SLGH005 White Birch. It's the poster boy of the Evolution 9 collection, and it's a watch that surprised me in many ways. It's certainly an evolutionary stepping stone for Grand Seiko, giving us a new line of watches which present modern design language and construction that maintain and continue to exhibit the Japanese watch DNA. The Evolution 9 family refers to 9 design elements outlined by Grand Seiko, but it's the 3 principles that underpin these elements that I want to focus on in this review, being evolutions in aesthetics, legibility, and comfort. The watch is coming in with a case diameter of 40mm, a lug-to-lug of 47mm, and a lug width of 22mm. It has a thickness of 11.7mm with 100 meters of water resistance and a screw-down crown, and has 80 hours of power reserve from its high-beat 9S-A5 movement. Aesthetics is one of the strong points of Grand Seiko and will be a lengthy section as there's quite a lot to go through. There's no doubt that the SLGH005 is a striking watch, and from the dial to the case, it dons a faceted appearance that demonstrates an aggressive undertone yet exudes an elegant nature. Its many lines and edges form a multitude of angles and surfaces for light to reflect from and work beautifully to highlight the shape of its indices and case architecture. The hour markers are incredibly well done with sharp, crisp lines along with fine, detailed grooves that break up the exquisite polishing and pair well with the faceted dolphin hands, especially that hour hand with its frosted center line. These components are cohesive with the case, sharing a similar faceted construction, and it too features clean and crisp lines which are accompanied by transitioning finishes of Zaratsu polishing and fine satin brushing. Grand Seiko have made a smart choice here in using opposing finishes for every connecting edge on the case, allowing the finishing itself to accentuate its intricacies and craftsmanship. Not only that, it's aesthetically pleasing, seeing the many faces of the lugs and bezel pop with an almost gem-like cut, and this too extends to the indices where each one is like a gem itself, expertly cut and polished to a mirror-like clarity. The overall watch just feels like a bolder form of Grand Seiko and is definitely an evolution from their more reserved offerings, and we haven't even touched on the actual dial yet. Its dial is unmistakably Grand Seiko, and it's executed purposefully to showcase what they're capable of. The texture is reminiscent of white birch trees, hence the white birch nickname, and the detail here is astounding. We get grainy reliefs upon a silver backdrop, intertwined with vertical valleys which creates that bark look of the trees. The grainy pattern has a frost-like appearance to it, and this in conjunction with the silver shimmer of the dial makes it look like snow on the bark of a white birch tree. It's a truly mesmerizing sight, and the way it plays with the light is nothing short of amazing. The textures on the dial scatter the light to produce a display of subtle glistening snow, and its deep dynamic surface and differing line orientations cast shadows which only help to emphasize its composition. Under the sun and direct light, the intensity of the dial increases, allowing the silver finish to come through in a way that really shows you how special the watch is, and under low light settings, the graininess and silver hues fade away, leaving behind a white canvas that retains that bark-like arrangement, offering an understated yet interesting look. The dial lets its details do the talking with its combination of texture and hour markers, and this in turn transforms the neutral base of the watch to something that is captivating and alluring. There's a lot going on here on the SLGH005, and if we list each of its individual traits from its textured dial, intricate indices, beveled dolphin hands, blued seconds, faceted case construction, and opposing finished surfaces, it can sound overwhelming, but in reality, every element works harmoniously and flows effortlessly from one another, and the choice of dial color here honestly helps to balance everything out. Now, you may have noticed I've focused a lot on the watch head and have yet to talk about the bracelet when it comes to aesthetics, as it's an iffy area for me. Overall, with the watch head, I think it looks fine. Originally, I didn't think I'd like the predominantly brushed look, but in hand, it looks much better than the online renderings. The brushing is great with a fine finish, and its brushed execution aids in keeping the watch under the radar and doesn't take away from the watch head itself, balancing the overall package just like the shade of the dial. The polished sides and rounded edges of the links line up well with the polished parts of the case, and despite how simple it is in comparison to the watch head, I think it works, but this is exactly what I'm iffy about. The SLGH005 presents a watch head that is miles ahead of the Bracelet in its intricacies and detail, and while the Bracelet does have complementing aspects that tie in well with the case and dial, like its broader links, exaggerated center end link, and refined finish, it doesn't really demonstrate an evolution like the watch head does, and I think Grand Seiko could have done a little more to amp it up, like including some bevels or chamfers in its design to better suit the case. When it comes to legibility, Grand Seiko already does some amazing work when it comes to their indices, and this SLGH005 is no exception. Its hour markers are noticeably more reflective than Grand Seiko's heritage and elegance lines, incorporating a lot more surfaces and angles for the light to reflect off, and still features sharp and delicate finishing that also elevates their reflective properties. They're quite a prominent feature of the dial, having a broad construction, and sit proud of the white birch pattern with a height that gives them an imposing sensation. This, in conjunction with their faceted form and detail, makes them stand out a lot more amongst the busy backdrop, and they really do make it easy to track the time. The hands are done in a similar fashion, and they too are easily noticeable and easily differentiated, giving their different shapes. The hour hand is broader with a cut-off tip and bears a resemblance to its hour markers, stopping just before each one to eliminate obstruction. The minute hand has a more slender build in comparison, with no center line, and it reaches all the way to the minute track, serving its purpose well. The blued seconds hand is a nice touch, and its pop of color makes it easier to see as it glides across the dial elements. This too reaches the minute track, and that blue tone does come in handy when the hands are stacked. One thing to note, there is no lume on this watch, and honestly, I don't expect it to have any, as it affords a cleaner look. However, there will be times where the hour markers and hands can become lost in the dial under certain lighting situations, with a washed out appearance. I think talking about the accuracy is also important here, and powering the SLGH005 is Grand Seiko's 9S-A5 caliber, a high beats movement that's rated to +8 to -1 seconds a day under normal usage. Now, there have been some reports of accuracy issues concerning the 9S-A5, however, this SLGH005 I have here is currently running at +2 seconds on average, so it's keeping rather good time. Comfort is the most surprising part about this watch for me. Initially, I didn't think it would wear all that well, but once I tried it on, it felt amazing on the wrist. The profile of the case is nicely arched, so the lugs have a downward curve that follows the contour of your wrist and prevents any gaps at the lug tips. Most male end links can be an issue for people, but here, the end links follow the same curve of the case, allowing the bracelet to also wrap around effortlessly and gives the watch a very flowing look on the wrist. The watch also feels balanced overall, as the links are larger than those on other Grand Seiko bracelets, adding a heft that counters the weight of the watch head. Not only that, the clasp is unintrusive given its compact size, so there won't be any bulkiness on the underside of your wrist either. This does, however, come at the cost of no micro adjustments, but you do get half links to find your perfect fit. The 40mm diameter of the watch will be a great size for a lot of people, and even though it's not the thinnest watch at 11.7mm, the sleek silhouette of the case kind of hides its thickness, as a lot of it comes from the protruding caseback. I've owned and tried on a variety of Grand Seiko timepieces in the past, and this one is definitely up there in comfort and wearability, especially for its dimensions. Overall, I think the SLGH005 is a fantastic watch and is a great stepping stone for Grand Seiko. It certainly showcases what the brand is capable of and feels like an emphasis of what they already do well, doubling down on their iconic dial execution with more complex textures and pattern layers, and incorporates a myriad of facets and surfaces to its case, indices and hands that reflect a lot more light compared to its cousins. It further highlights their craftsmanship with sharp and clean cuts throughout that are exquisitely finished with satin brushing and Zaratsu polishing, and doesn't sacrifice on comfort, wearing extremely well while looking good. All of these extra elements make it distinctly different from Grand Seiko's other collections, yet feels so familiar, demonstrating a clear evolution that retains the core Grand Seiko DNA we all know and love, and I'd say it adheres to its three principles rather well. Of course, there are some areas where it could improve on, and hopefully these are things they will consider as part of the evolutionary process. As it stands, I'm a big fan of the watch, more than I expected, and it's brought back an excitement I missed when I first laid eyes on a Grand Seiko. Thank you for checking out the video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more watch content. I'll see you in the next one.